What is going on, guys? Hope you guys are having a fantastic day as always. Today we're doing something a little different than I normally do, but it's something that I think kind of goes along with the theme of the channel and everything, and maybe it'll even help some of you guys out. Give you a little insight on what I use on a daily basis here at work. So today I'm going to be doing a basic toolbox tour and basically some of the specialty tools that I use when working on these Subarus, and I do it every day for a living. So let's go through it. I'll show you guys what I use. I'll show you some of the specialty tools we use and how I supplement my toolbox, stuff like that. But let's go ahead and get into it. Alright everybody, here it is. Sorry for the mess on top of the box. My box kind of becomes shop storage at sometimes. But here it is. It's my Milwaukee toolbox. It's the 56-inch. I actually got a bigger one coming in, but for now this does the trick. It's not completely full, but there's some things I'd like to have more space for, but let's just get right into it. This is kind of my junk drawer because not a lot of stuff fits in it, but I've got my breaker bar. I've got my ratcheting breaker bar. This thing is what I use mainly all the time for crank pulleys and stuff like that when doing timing. I've got my 3/8 inch breaker bar, or just 3/8 inch long handled ratchet for doing stuff like exhaust nuts and stuff that I can't break free with my small gun that I'll show you guys in a minute. I've got my handy dandy everyday use. This is probably one of my top 3 most used tools. It's just a 3/8 snap-on ratchet. I've got my 1/4 inch snap-on ratchet with the locking head. I've got just a couple extra 3/8 and 1/4 inch ratchets just for worst case scenarios. I've got my super long handled 1/4 inch ratchet that I use for mainly valve covers. It's really good for reaching down and getting those bolts in the back of the valve covers. I've got my extractor kit here. I wouldn't recommend buying one of these because I've only had success with these type of extractors one time. I'll just open it up really quick to show you guys which ones these are. They are the internal drive, and like I said, I've only had success with them extracting a bolt or whatever for me like maybe 1 or 2 times, so I wouldn't recommend those. This is my little stretch belt kit for the 08 Plus stuff that has the stretch belts on them. I have a video on how to use this and how to install the stretch belt, so I'll link that up in the corner. I've got a couple extra picks that I don't ever really use. They're just extras. Blades, little random stuff. Bits for my little hex impact driver. Clutch alignment tool. This is super useful. As you can see, I have 3 of them. Extra flashlight. Little mini tape measure. This comes in super handy for doing like coilover adjustments and stuff like that. Scraper. Usually I just hold the razor blade with my hand, but this thing, when they work, they are super handy for scraping off gaskets and RTV. Let's see, what else do I have up here? A couple little plugs for random hoses and stuff like that. This is for the AC compressor, 2 plugs for that. And then a mirror. This one's broken, but I need to get another one. Here's a little tool for grabbing things that you lose down in the engine bay. Move on to the next drawer. Oh, can't forget about this guy. This guy I use for tie rod ends on super seized steering racks, getting the tie rod ends off. It's basically just a huge pipe wrench, but this is the best one I've ever used. It's from Snap-on. If you guys are interested, I'll leave a tool number down in the box below, the description box. Here is my socket drawer. It's not super full, but it's basically all the sockets I ever need on a daily basis. I've got my 1/2 inch drive sockets up here, obviously 19, 22 for the crank bolts, 24 for the oil adapter bolts. I've got a couple universal joints. I've got this 10mm Sunex impact hex. That's for the cam gear bolts. I've got all my 3/8 inch drive sockets, just 6-point. All my shallow 6-point. I love this little shallow 3/8 inch drive 22 mil socket for when I need to get my ratchet in the engine bay to turn the crank. It's super low profile, so I can get that in there really easily. I've got all my regular SAE hex bits. I never really use these because we don't use SAE stuff, but I've got my snap-on metric hex bits over here. There's a couple that I need to get, like I need to get a 12mm one and a 14mm one. I've got Torx bits here. We don't use a whole lot, but when you need them, they come in handy. I've got the 1/4 inch drive hex bits as well for the smaller sizes. I've got a set of non-impact 12-point sockets here, and I've got my impact 12-point sockets here. As you can see, I use my 12mm one the most. This 12mm one is ideal for doing head, or not head, but crankcase bolts. The ones that are down in the water jackets and everything like that, you'll need one of these and an extension. Also, I need to get an 11mm one for doing the Manly rods, because they have 11mm 12-point nuts on them. I've got a miscellaneous socket here, my wobble sockets here. These come in super handy for doing bell housing bolts, and basically anything else like that. Also AC compressor bolts. As you can see, my 14mm is used the most. Here I have oil filter sockets. I don't use them for Subarus anymore because you don't got to worry about those. More wobble sockets here, some deeps, and then some 1/4 inch drive ones down here. I don't use those a whole lot, but like I said, when they come in handy, when you need them, they're there. Got my Sunex adapters and U-joints. I use this adapter the most. It's the 1/2 inch to 3/8 drive. It's held up really well so far, so I'd recommend those. I can leave a parts number or Amazon link to this in the description below. Obviously, my Streamlight flashlight. It's great and all, but I feel in this environment, I find myself using these headlamps most of all. These ones are pretty good price. Comes with 2. They've lasted me a long time, so I'll leave an Amazon link to those in the description as well. I have my 1/4 inch drive extension set from Snap-on here. They're the wobbles. I'm probably going to buy the regular ones, the non-wobbles here in the future. I've got my 1/2 inch drive extensions, got my 3/8 inch drive impact extensions. This is one of my favorite tools that I use for all kinds of things, really. It's impact driver from Snap-on. Comes with all these bits. As you can see, my flathead ones are broken, but I'm going to get those replaced from when the truck comes back on Monday. Another Torx bit. So that pretty much does it for this drawer, other than these for the spline drive lug nuts. I don't have one, but for the axle nuts you need either a 6-point or a 12-point 32mm huge socket like that, impact socket. I have this little kit for random interior pieces, and that's about all for this drawer, so we'll go ahead and move on. This is a nothing drawer. This doesn't really have anything in it. I've got these picks that come in handy for seals and stuff like that. This drawer is my wrenches. So I have another shitty extractor set there, just a random bit set, a couple extra wrenches, bits for my hammer, my impact hammer. I've got stubby ratcheting wrenches. These come in really handy. Just the stubby part comes in really handy for doing the power steering lines when doing a power steering rack. I've got my regular ratcheting wrenches from Blue Point, Icon combination wrenches from, I have the, goes from 6mm all the way up. I bought the large kit too that goes all the way up to 24 millimeter. I bought these for doing alignments and stuff, so I don't really use them too much anymore. The 22 mil is super handy for doing O2 sensors, oxygen sensors, if you don't have the proper socket for it. And then I think that's up for that drawer. Over here, I've got screwdrivers, obviously. I've got these nylon, brass, and steel wire brushes. They come in handy for gaskets and stuff like that. Obviously, I've got my multimeter, just a little knife there. And this guy is super handy for testing fuses and stuff. It's just a test light. I'm sure you guys know what that is. Not a whole lot else in that drawer. In this drawer, I have my large 1/2-inch drive torque wrench, which is really good for lug nuts and torquing down things like the cam gear bolts, head bolts, head studs, all that good stuff. My 3/8-inch drive torque wrench, which is good for basically everything you can think of under the sun. I've got a few punches and chisels, just a basic kit from Harbor Freight. They've come in super handy. Another thing that's super awesome, I'll show you guys a part number right there. This will focus. So there's the part number for this guy. It is one of my favorite and most used tools. It is the rethreading or thread chaser kit. It's got metric and standard, but this thing comes in super handy. As you can see, all my metric ones are used very often. So this comes in super handy. I would recommend picking one of these up if you can, even just a basic one from Harbor Freight. I've got drill bits, right hand drive, screw and extractor set, a couple Milwaukee Cobalt bits, my snap-on. I think they have a different angled head, so they're a little bit better at drilling out broken bolts and stuff. That's basically it for that drawer. Down here I've got all my pliers and cutters and stuff like that. My most used ones are probably these long reach pliers right here, the needle nose. These ones are from Crescent, I believe. I got them from Home Depot. These are my probably most used ones out of all of them. They're the 45-degree angle needle nose pliers. I got these from Snap-on. I use these probably a dozen times a day. Just basic pliers, some short dikes from Snap-on. They work really well. Long handled pair of dikes for cutting like thick battery cables, stuff like that. Obviously a crescent wrench, and I have a smaller one up here. I've got a pipe wrench, C-clamp for brakes, hex keys, Allen keys, a huge crescent wrench for turning the crank when turning over a motor, when I build motors. Maybe you guys will see a video on that soon, but huge crescent wrench for turning the crank. Set of crimpers and cutters. This is I haven't used them yet. These are brand new from Snap-on. So if you guys want a review on these things, they're super cool. I like the way that the crimper is at the top instead of in the middle like on these regular ones. A couple pairs of these kind of pliers. They come in super handy for hose clamps and stuff like that. A small pair of vice grips. They've come in super handy. I have this pair of Snap-on vice grips, but I'm not really happy with them, so I don't use them a whole lot. Body panel trim clip, super good for the newer Subarus that have all the body panels underneath with tons of clips in them. A huge set of these pliers. I'm drawing a blank on what they're called right now, so don't roast me. And then I have stuff for, I have the drum brake tools, this guy, and then these things under here. I don't know if you can see them, but you know, tools for doing drum brakes. Those come in handy every once in a while. This is kind of my junk drawer. I have my hammers down here, some paint, some body clips, a bunch of vacuum hose fittings, rubber nipples for plugging things off, flap discs and cutoff discs for my angle grinder, pry bars. These come in super handy all the time for all kinds of things. These are the Snap-on ones. I'll try and put part numbers and tool numbers in the description for all this, as many things as I can. This is my power drawer. It's a little messy right now, but I'll go through everything I have. As you guys can see, Milwaukee is my power tool of choice. I have not been disappointed by them so far. I have the digital bore gauge, not bore gauge, I'm sorry, the digital inspection camera. This thing's super cool. I wish the light was a little brighter, but I have no complaints about this. I've got the hammer drill. This thing has come in handy for drilling out all kinds of bolts in the past. I've got the 4.5-inch angle grinder. This thing comes in handy for all kinds of stuff. This is my probably #1 most used tool. This is the Milwaukee 3/8-inch impact stubby, and I usually use a high output battery on it, but this thing I use probably for 90% of my work here at work. Obviously there are some smaller things that I use the other gun for, but this is probably my most used tool. So I would recommend you guys picking one of these up. Even if you are just a DIYer at home, this thing is super handy. I love this tool. This one gets used a lot too. This is the 3/8-inch drive, just little ratcheting wrench. Makes putting bolts in a lot faster, longer bolts and stuff. This is my 1/2-inch fuel. We call it the Ugga Dugga. We use it for tons of stuff around here, mostly breaking free crank bolts, cam gear bolts, breaking free head studs. There's not really anything around here that this thing can't break free. I have a pneumatic air gun here. I think it's broken though. I have a pneumatic or air powered drill. This thing's high speed. We don't use it a lot. We don't use air in this shop a lot, so I'm just gonna throw that in the back. This is this thing is getting replaced soon. It's done me really well though. This is the 1/4-inch drive, hex drive, little impact gun. It's not the fuel, but that's okay. It has all the power that I need. It does all the things I need it for. As you guys can see, I have the 1/4-inch shank on there, so I use my 1/4-inch bits, or not bits, but sockets on that for things like hose clamps, any little 10mm bolt, valve covers, putting on valve covers, taking off timing covers, you know, stuff like that, any small stuff. I have my personal little just basic scanner. I use this for reading basic trouble codes and stuff like that. A couple batteries. I have my pneumatic air chisel, air gun, air hammer. This thing has come in handy a couple times, mainly for punching out the little studs that are on the engine and transmission, the alignment dowels. You guys will probably know what I'm talking about if you ever pulled the motor on a Subaru. I've got my air die grinder. I've got the straight die grinder one, or the cutoff one here, and then the 90-degree one there. That's super handy for doing things like cleaning up oil pans, stuff like that, where you don't have to really worry about the surface finish. That's basically it for my toolbox. I have what I just bought, power probe. That's sitting in the back of my Jeep, so you guys aren't going to see that today. If you guys want to see a review on that or some tips and tricks on how to use it, definitely let me know. I will show you guys. But that's basically it for my box. I have a few chargers over here for the M12 stuff, but there are a few things. Let's go over here. I don't know if he locked it or not. There's a few things over here that kind of supplement my box. One of them being that 32mm axle nut. The other ones being these cam pulley tools. This one's for the crank pulley for breaking the crank bolt free. This one's for the same thing, just on different cars. That one's one of the cam gear holders. The other two are somewhere else, but my boss supplies those, so I don't have to buy them. One more thing I'll show you guys in a second, back in my toolbox, super important, is the cam gear holder from Company 23. Let's see, a couple other things. I mean, really the only other thing is that 32mm axle nut socket. that he supplies for me that I don't have my own. There's fuel line disconnects. I'm sure you guys know about the fuel lines on Subarus. They're kind of a pain in the butt. So he has a fuel line disconnect tool set that he lets me use, which comes in pretty handy. I plan on getting my own because they make specialty ones for Subaru that work specifically for Subaru fuel lines. But let me show you guys this really quick. This is one of the most useful tools I've ever purchased for doing timing on the EJ motors. You guys probably know what this is. It basically plugs into the top, the intake and exhaust cam, and just holds them in place while you put all the timing together. If you guys want a tutorial on how to use this tool effectively, I will definitely make one for you guys. Just let me know down in the comments below. For now, that's pretty much my toolbox tour and kit. Oh, here's Jordan. But the kit, basically everything that I need on a daily basis to do A to Z on these Subarus. So if there's anything I left out, guys, definitely let me know down in the comments. If there's anything you guys want to see in the future, or tutorials on any of these tools or anything like that, let me know down in the comments. I'd be happy to make another video. But for now, guys, I think that's gonna do it. I appreciate you guys watching. There's the toolbox. Hope you guys liked it. If you have any questions, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. That's gonna do it. Like the video if this helped you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more Subaru and Jeep content. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.